be thinking. The other thing too, you guys, is next year, if you've not taken, or if you have, next year, we're going to start with foundations again. Because we did that 3 years ago, and I have a lot of new people that are coming to the table here. But it is still good if you're reviewing, because I didn't even get to everything, but your foundation work is critical not only for comprehension, but it's critical for writing. Does it make sense, you guys? So to me, that next year is like critical that you come. If you need more hits, or if you're new to this. And when I talk about foundations, I'm talking about disciplinary literacy foundations, meaning strategies that can fit across your day, no matter what you're teaching. So I don't want to just see ELA teachers in the room next year. I want to see history teachers in the room. I want to see science teachers in the room. I want to see related arts teachers in the room. Because in order for us to get better and for us to move the dial, what we do has to go across our day, right? Michael Schmoker, who is an educator, professional writer, he has written numerous books. Michael Schmoker, does he sound familiar? Lots of research. He has this book called Focus. And in there he says, if we want to increase, to move the achievement dial, we have to follow this rule. It's called the 60-40 rule. 60 minutes of reading across your day, every day. So if I'm the ELA teacher and I'm the only one doing it, am I going to get to 60 minutes a day? No. Now, you guys are going to tell you this. 60 minutes does not include silent reading. That you can't count silent reading as your 60 minutes. It's authentic reading together. Everyone doing it is going to be really, really important. Okay. So we want 60 minutes of reading across our day, which means we all have a part of that, right? You're not only a history teacher of content, but you're a history teacher to get them to read through the content and to write through the content. So we've got to make sure we're clear on that as well. 40 minutes, you guys, 40 minutes of writing across your day. So turn and talk real quick. Are you guys close to the 60-40 rule in your building? To have a conversation. What do you guys think? Are you meeting that goal of the 60-40 rule? Okay, you're by yourself. Do you want to go? Maybe. Okay. Okay. Because all right. Okay. Hey guys, eyes here, opportunity to respond. Here's what I'm going to have you do, because it's a great way. I've seen this in a high school classroom where students are giving feedback, and it's an everyone opportunity to respond. So let's go back to the opportunity to respond. What we want is we want more everyone opportunities to respond, less individual opportunities to respond, because an individual means that one student is practicing, nobody else is. So there's going to be times where I'm going to have an individual, but I want it to look like this. Everyone responding, less individual. So I even will go into classrooms and tally for teachers how many times they gave an individual response versus an everyone response. Really is big for buy-in for kids. It's also truly having a class discussion because everyone's involved. Engagement increases, and now everybody's accountable for their thinking and their reading and their writing. So we want everyone. So a great way to get everyone to do it, I'm going to give you a strategy. I do it all the time. Turn and talk, you guys. That's an everyone response. Because see, not just one person's talking and thinking. What? Everyone has a learning partner, and everyone is doing a think, ink, pair, share. Does that make sense? That's an everyone. If I say, guys, if you agree, I want you to snap 3 times. Okay. Is that an individual or an everyone? So do we need to, you're going to give me 3 snaps. Do we need to increase opportunities to respond for everyone? Think 1, 2, 3 snap. There's your 3 snaps. See, everybody's snapping, agreeing with me that we need to increase how many opportunities we give kids to share, right? Sometimes it's just a Snap. This morning I had an administrator that was like, snap, 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 snap. Yeah, wait, it was so cute. Both even kids, I saw in a classroom of a high school, it was a math classroom, by the way, and this teacher had taught the snap strategy so that anytime they liked what they heard, like for example, if a student shared and they agreed with that student or they liked what that student said, guess what they were all doing? They were snapping. And think about how powerful that is when they're snapping for a student who's sharing something that's like, whoa, awesome and way to go. So just that simple, everybody snap if you agree. And if you like something as we're sharing, you snap, that's an everyone respond. So really thinking of how many times do I let kids respond either individually or together? We want to increase the everyone turning and talking, everyone snapping, everyone writing, everyone reading. Okay, so when you do individual independent reading, I can't say that's in everyone. Why is that? Why am I not going to count it as an everyone if they're all reading silently? Have no clue if they're reading. And at the high school level, oh, the kids know how to play the game of school. They put their hoodie down, right? They pretend. And then when I ask a question, they can't answer it. They haven't what? Haven't read it. So how do we take some, how do we manage those behaviors? Now, at the high school level, the pushback is they've not had to do it up until high school. So high school, it's going to be hard to train, but is that going to stop me from doing that? No. It's the way we're doing business in this classroom. I'm going to ask you to respond. I'm going to ask you to talk to your partner. There's going to be some expectations. I'm going to have to give them points for doing that. I give them participation points for that because they have to have something in order to do it initially, but you got to build that routine or that community that's just automatically how we do business in our classrooms. That's really important. So the snapping is an opportunity to respond, meaning you're all agreeing, disagreeing, liking what I'm saying. So it's just with my little kids, I even say, okay, ready, snap 3 times, and we do it together. At the older grade, they're just snapping on their own. My first graders do it beautifully. In fact, they can snap louder than me, which is amazing. All right, so on our piece of paper, I want to talk about foundations because we talked about foundations. Really, next year you need to come again, and then it'll be a full year of more foundations. The year that I'm doing it, it's just general strategies, general. But then when you as ELA teachers are moving from a different unit, then it changes. So let's talk about foundation strategies. Our topic is, you guys can't see this. Hold on. Okay, so, and guys, really in the order, now on my tree chart, it starts with active reading and then it does vocabulary, and you can kind of do both. I'm going to switch them for you because I think vocabulary is the first thing we need to do. And what I've been seeing in a lot of classrooms is where our vocabulary, tell me whether you agree. If you agree, you're going to snap. Okay, listen to my sentence. When I'm in classrooms, I have been seeing or of observing very little vocabulary instruction. Do you agree? Okay, do you see? I'm seeing, and not because we don't think it's important. What gets in the way of us not teaching vocabulary, you guys? But if vocabulary is a big dog and it's research supported and it's our big 5, should we be teaching to it? So to me, I've got to get in the routine of figuring out how I do it. So I'm going to tell you, Monday is my vocabulary day because Monday is when I introduce the new text that they're going to be reading for the week. So just, you got to have that mindset. Monday's going to be my day that I'm going to introduce the vocabulary for that week. Monday is the day I'm going to introduce that vocabulary. So on Monday, I'm going to talk about text features. I'm going to read the text. I'm going to have multiple reads on the text. And I'm going to focus on getting the barrier of vocabulary off the table. That's my Monday always. So I even know what I'm kind of doing each day. That's going to be helpful. So Monday, text features. Monday, read the text 3 times. Monday. Did I say text features? Vocabulary is the third thing. Those are the 3 things I'm going to try to take care of on Monday because I introduce a new text every week. So on Monday, I'm introducing a new text. So I'm going to work on those 3 things. What are the text features? Multiple reads, that's going to hit time and text. And then the third thing is vocabulary. So I have to have a bank of strategies to do that. I got to know what I'm doing for that. Some easy ones, not some others that aren't. So let's talk about foundations. These are my generic. And then I'm going to explain to you how this works as I move through my units of study. So foundations of, and I'm going to say literacy because it hits both reading and writing, not just one. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about what are those. Okay, now I have on your tree chart, it starts with active reading, but I'm going to tell you I'm going to switch it because I'm going to put vocabulary as my first criteria that I need to focus on when I'm teaching. And does it matter what content I'm teaching you guys? Doesn't matter, right? It could be PE. I still have to address vocabulary with my PE students, right? I'm going to have to make sure that I'm hitting vocabulary. Now, when you think of, some of you guys are involved with PSYOP is saying they need to be speaking, reading, writing, and listening in your lesson plans. This is going to help with that. Okay. Vocabulary, they got to do every week. So now I've got to say, what are going to be my strategies that I'm going to employ to help my kids with vocabulary? So let's stop right there. I'm going to give you some, but what's one that's your go-to when you talk about vocabulary? Would you write a couple of vocabulary strategies you actually do with your kids on a regular basis that they would know? What are some vocabulary strategies you actually do right now? Okay. I know that I'm going to do some fast mapping with them, even at the high school level. It sounds pretty elementary, but I'm going to model what fast mapping looks like because I can do that very quickly. Oh, I am going to do breaking down definitions with them. That's another strategy that I might do. Oh gosh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that I'm not only I'm doing that, I'm going to build in Freyer model. So some of these sound familiar, you guys? I'm not, do you see anywhere on my list that they're going to write the words to the definition and write the words and copy the definition? Don't do that anymore. I might read it to them, but I'm not going to I'm not going to use that 20 minutes or 30 minutes to have them look up words and write the definition down, because what's happening when they do that, you guys? They're doing it for you. It's not because they're learning from it. They're just what? You're just copying. Okay, so to me, it isn't a high leverage strategy. Is it okay to do it? Yeah, but less of that, more of some other things. What about a semantic feature analysis? Are you guys familiar with that? That's a good one for vocabulary. It's called a semantic feature analysis. I'm going to show you that today because it's pretty fun. Okay, any others that you can throw out as a group that you do on a regular basis, other than maybe what I've listed? Any others? Talk to your group. Sometimes you don't like to talk to me, the whole group. Talk to your partner. What is another strategy you guys use? Michael Schmoker, Schmoker. Michael Schmoker, and it's a green book, and it's called Focus, and then there's a subtitle to it. You should be able to find it. But it's called Focus. It's the big word on it. It's a green book, but if you say Michael Schmoker Focus, it should pop up.
We're going to talk about semantic feature analysis today, right?
Yeah, it's good because it's good for content, and it's also good for vocabulary. And it's also good for comparing. Are you new today? Have you been in my room at my classes before?
Yes.
Okay.
You're coming to my school in November.
Huntington. Oh, Emily.
Yes.
Yay. Katie this morning. Yes. Awesome.
I hope you.
I got him. She gave him to me. I got him. That's so good. Okay, so vocabulary. All right, you guys. Now I'm going to give you a, like here, I'm going to say, gosh, really, you're going to have to do, this is my Monday work. I'm just going to put it as an example. Now, is it the only day that I'm doing vocabulary? No, but it's the day where I do the majority of my vocabulary work for what they're going to be having to read. And it gives me my first read then. I'm going to show you how I do that, you guys. It's my first read. Because they're going to be reading the first time. Either I read aloud or you're reading independently, but our focus is going to be on vocabulary. So I'll show you what that looks like. That's our first read. Then they're going to do it a second read and a third read. Now, if it's a long piece, are they reading the whole thing 3 times? No, they're reading parts of it, but they're practicing reading 3 times. So that's going to be really important. So Monday work is when I do my vocabulary. Now, on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm also, as my bell ringer, probably doing a fast map or reviewing another word, but it's a real quick one. It's not like they're having to write anything. It's just probably a real quick fast mapping, and I'll model that for you. There's my Monday, okay? So now in my mind, I've got to go, these are the strategies that I need to teach them in all areas, but some of these work better for some units than others. So when I relaunch a new unit, I go, okay, which one of these is going to be really important for that? So relaunching means not doing all of them again, but maybe picking the one that's going to be most effective and most helpful for them in that kind of writing, right? Is that making sense? Okay. So Monday. So then I got to determine what's my vocabulary strategy that I'm going to be focusing on in this unit study, one or two. And then I like to bring in another one. Another one that I'm going to add is called the brace chart. Let's put that down. Brace chart. It's a good one too. Another good strategy for vocabulary, a brace chart. With the brace chart, we're really focusing on, you guys, morphology, parts of words. So write morphology, which by the secondary level, we should be doing more work with morphology than anything else, because it's really breaking down words and doing parts, prefix, brace, root, suffix. So morphology work is really a big push right now, both research for our secondary kids. I'll show that to you as well. All right, so another category is active reading. So what do you think the key word is in that phrase right there? Active. All right, turn and talk. Tell your partner how you get your kids to read on a weekly basis or daily. What's your go-to for having them read? Now this is your check mark. So guys, if you do it, put a check mark by it. So if you guys do Freyer model, this is gonna be your checklist. I'm going to put a little check by the ones that you actually do. Some of these might be brand new to you and that's okay. But if you're doing one of the things that I list, I want you to put a little check mark for you so you can kind of guide what am I doing and what do I need to increase and get better at, right? Okay, so let's talk about active reading. You guys, kids cannot take notes until they what? They read and they annotate. Non-negotiable. Now, why is this really important? Let me tell you how I learned this the hard way. I was trying to learn how to be a better writer instructor in my classroom, and I went to Step Up to Writing training, and the one thing that really caught my interest, and I went, whoa, this is gonna be so good, was 2-column notes. So I immediately brought that back into my classroom, and we did 2-column notes and we color coded and we did it all in. It was fabulous. But this is what happened. They waited for me to what? To give them the information in the 2-column notes. Do you guys find you're doing that? You're taking notes for them? And all they're doing is what? Why? I went, wait a minute, guys. Wait a minute. I'm doing most of the work. I'm doing something wrong. I'm missing a step somewhere. What step am I missing? What I realized is that I wasn't teaching them how to live inside the text, how to annotate the text. So annotate means, here's a student-friendly definition. Our word today, let me do a fast map on annotating, okay? Our word today is annotating. What's our word, everyone? Let's say that word 3 times. Let's loop that word or let's pound that word. Watch me. Annotate, annotate. Fingers up, do it with me, ready to go. Annotate, annotate. Nice job. What's another word? What does annotate mean? What's another word for annotate? Annotate means marking the text as I go. What does annotate mean, everyone? Right, right. Annotate, and then I give the definition of annotate, and then I say, I annotate my text before I take notes, period. There's my example, my sentence. Okay, and then sometimes they even go another step. What is opposite of annotate? What's a non-example of annotate?
Copying word for word.
Yes, reading word for word. Annotating, opposite of annotating is not doing anything. It's like just reading. It's not marking. It's just not marking up the text. So annotating is huge. So you guys, once I said, whoop, bell ringer here, drop my mic drop, I realized that I was missing a step. I said, okay, guys, we're backing up. I find that I'm doing most of the work. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to show you how to take notes, but in order for you to be independent note taker, I have to give you a strategy. So I'm going to teach you how to annotate the text while you're reading it. So I'm going to show you how to circle the main idea and to underline the evidence. so that when you go to your 2-column notes, you actually can pull that information from the text and move it right where? Into your 2-column notes. Game changer. So are you having kids annotate text? Yes or no? Turn and talk. And how are you having them annotate text? Yes or no? And if it's a new skill, it's okay.
It sticks better. So then they
Okay, guys, here's a couple of examples. I have some in my your foundation binder, and we'll go over these more next year. But I know for sure that I'm going to teach them how to do a free response. And a free response is where they find something in the text and they go, I think, I wonder, I disagree, I agree, a question I have. It's like responding to something in the text. You guys, annotating is having a conversation with the author as you go. That's what the annotating is. It's having a conversation with the author as you go. So my kids have to annotate from the top to the bottom of what they're reading. So usually it's 3, because I don't want them to annotate everything, but I say annotate something in the beginning of your text, annotate something in the middle of your text, and annotate something on the bottom of your text. And I'll have them do what I call a free response. So they're going to stop, they're going to underline what they're going to respond to, because remember, it's having a conversation with the author as you go. So you're going to stop and you're going to say, what does that make you think? Feel, say, do. I'm going to give them a bookmark that has a lot of these starters, like I agree, I disagree, I think, I wonder, and they're going to free response. And then they're going to read a little bit more, find another thing that stands out to them. They underline that, they respond, I agree that trampolines are dangerous, just like the author said, right? I agree. And then I read some more, and then I do another response. I wonder if, and then they finish that thought, right? That's what I'm going to practice that. It's the best one, and it's one that you really need to do with literary essays, because it's a literary essay is a lot about how they feel. It's their personal stories and connections that you want to hear in a literary essay, not so much in an informative an opinion or argument, but in a literary essay, you want to connect your story to whatever theme you think you feel is the strongest in that piece of text that you're reading. So free responses is really good for that. Sketch and label. Sometimes I'll just say, underline something, sketch and label what comes to mind. They love it. It's not like answering 20 questions, right? That they don't remember or they don't even do, right? Coding the text, another one of my favorites for my kids. Coding the text is where they have codes, like they have a code like this. One code is, oh, connection to myself. That's like a text to self connection. Oh, vital information. I'm going to put a star beside that. A wow fact. So they're now putting these little codes by the word, by the thought in their reading, that then tells them, oh my goodness, that's a vital piece of information. I better star that. Exclamation, that's a wow fact. Oh, I can make a connection to that. Do you see how you're doing it? Now you're getting them to really annotate and make some connections with text. Circle one and underline a few is a non-negotiable. And it's a non-negotiable for note-taking. Because you guys, if they can't identify the main idea in their reading and they cannot underline the evidence that supports that main idea, they're never going to be able to take that information and put it into their what? Their 2-column notes, their note-taking. So you guys, if I were in your building and an administrator, I would say play around these, but this one right here would be a non-negotiable. So our kids can pull information from text, take notes, and then write. So this would be my non-negotiable for teachers. Yeah.
I don't do that one as much with literary analysis.
Exactly.
And then I found that it really helped them if you know, like, especially for like the sixth graders, they were wanting to circle everything, and
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's look back at the title.
Yeah.
What's the title focusing on? Because they always want to circle a date. Like they always want to do that. I'm like, what does that date have to do with our title?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about teen drivers, what does that have to do?
Yeah. So connecting.
With the titles, that way they're not like.
But you have it right though, because really that's true, because the connections are your yellows. If you know the colors, I always say your yellows have to match your green, which is that top color, right? So in informative writing, it's all about matching main ideas or criteria that is connected to the green or the topic. So you're exactly right. If they don't match, then they're not circling the correct yellow or the correct main idea. So that's really important. Again, this is my point. Some of these strategies I can do with every kind of writing that I'm doing or reading, but some are more specific for a kind. So circle one, underline a few. I would not be doing that with argument writing or reading, or I would not be doing that strategy with literary, because it's not the same. So there's a different purpose. So now I not only have to have a bank of strategies that go under my active reading, but I have to know which ones are best for informative writing, which one's best for argument writing, which one's best for narrative writing, which one's best for a literary essay. Does that making sense, you guys? So I have to almost like learn them all. And then when I start a unit, I have to go relaunch. I'm not going to do all of those. Which one or two do I need to do in this unit? But you guys, this is going to take time as we grow our toolkit of strategies so that we can actually do that. Did I do that in year one? No, had no clue. Did I do that in year two? No. It was more like year 5 when I went, oh, I think I got it. And I just did random things. But as we do it and we have these systems in place, you guys will get better to be able to relaunch and be a little bit more specific in what you need to do with your kids. But I'm here to help you. So literary, I'm going to tell you, gosh, in literary, breaking down definition, you know, all these are good. You're going to have to pick one, but I'm going to tell you, boy, I just pick one or two to do. Fast mapping would be for sure, because I can do a lot of defining really quickly with kids where they're just listening and doing it with me. Okay, just like I did with you. Looping, stamping, giving a quick definition, using it in a sentence. Pretty easy. But I got to practice this. So here's what you guys really need to thinking about. And I'm going to make you do this in practice because this is really hard. If you don't practice it, what's going to happen to this strategy? So we're going to do a word today, and you get to practice doing the fast mapping with your partner today, because you need at least 25 hits on a strategy before you have it as a part of your toolkit. 25 hits, meaning 25 practices. We know the majority of our kids need up to 100 hits in order for it to be a part of their schema. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, did you get it? Dang, that was close. Do you see? So how many times do you need to practice a new strategy that you just learned? How many? Students need about 100. Oh, you guys are so good. Your students, your average students need about 100 hits. Your struggling students may need up to 1,000 hits. That's why vertical alignment is key. All of us need to be giving them hits on fast mapping, starting with kindergarten, so that when they get to me, they know it and they can actually do it with their partner without me doing it. And they're actually teaching each other that way. So you guys, there's some beauty in vertical alignment, beauty in all of us saying, in our writing map, this is a strategy we're going to use for this kind of reading and writing. And should we all be doing it? ELA, you need to focus on literary and narrative. Your content teachers need to be focusing on informative for sure, but it isn't usually set up that way in our classrooms. But we need to even think about whose responsibility is it to do what? ELA teachers, your big dog is literary. Everybody else should be informative, because that's the kind of reading for the most part that they're doing. So even divvying up how we do this is just so powerful in a building. We need help from one another. All right, so circle one. So now I'm going to have to say what annotating strategy is going to be really important for literary. Okay, now we've got active reading. Oh, thinking charts. Let's put the next one. Okay, so thinking charts is, by the way, just so you know, let's just review that. A thinking chart is I don't like to use this word, but it really is, this is what it's called. It's a graphic organizer, but I don't use that word anymore, because a graphic organizer, oftentimes you use it for multiple purposes. And so kids get confused. In fact, has this happened when you say, let's do some circles and squares on our paper? right? We're gonna do kind of like a web. Have you done that before in your classroom? Where you just say, we're gonna organize and we're gonna put a circle here and we're gonna put some boxes around here. And I used to do that, and it was kind of a web that I would do. But this is what my kids would do. I said, okay, guys, put the topic where it needs to go. And they would wait for me what? And then I would say, okay, we're going to put a key idea up here. What do you think they do? They wait because I don't really know what I'm really asking them to do. In my mind, I know what I'm asking them to do, but they don't. So I don't like to use graphic organizers, and I don't like to use something that has multiple reasons for using it. So my thinking charts is a chart, for example, where I say the chart is 2 column notes. So there's my strategy, right? So 2 column notes is my strategy, you guys. For the skill of classifying information. There's your skill. So if I'm going to work on classifying information, and oftentimes in our content, it's about information in, information out, not sometimes a lot of higher level thinking, it's just recall, then I'm going to do 2 column notes, because 2 column notes is going to help my kids pull out information that's going to help them recall information about weather, volcanoes, math, whatever we're doing. Does that make sense? So now thinking charts, every chart has a specific purpose. So I have to know what my purpose is. So for example, if I'm going to work on the skill of comparing, let's write that, comparing. I know that my text is asking them to compare 2 things, whether it's science, whether it's history, whether in ELA they're comparing 2 characters. I have to go, what kind of chart am I going to use to help them with that? You see, I have to know that. I know that I'm going to use a bubble chart. Excuse me, no, I'm sorry, a tri chart. So you guys, if I don't know that, I'm not going to give them that specific strategy that's going to help them organize their information when they're comparing 2 things or 3 things or 4 things. Is that making sense again too, as we go through this? Another chart is going to be what I call a bubble chart. So write this, because this is going to be one that we're going to need today. So a bubble chart is a chart that is focused of the skill of describing. Okay, so when we think of a literary essay, you guys, a key component of a literary essay is characterization and character development, right? Don't you agree? In a literary essay, you guys, remember we talked about, we kind of defined it. A literary essay is reading something, analyzing a piece of work to determine the theme, okay? It's really my big dog. My number one thing with a literary essay is what's the theme? And it's kind of like an argument, because a piece of text might have more than one theme. You got to pick the theme that you can support. It's not going to be my theme. It's going to be your theme. Now, some themes can be wrong, but for the most part, a literary essay is an argument piece of writing. But you're focusing on a literary piece of text, and you're really honing in on what's the theme, what's the lesson. There's other things you can do, like characterization. I mean, there's other things you can do in a literary essay, but I always really like to start with theme, because theme's a big one, because it's oftentimes inferred, right? That doesn't always state, and theme's a big one. What's the lesson in this? And it isn't stated, it's often inferred. So that's a good one to start with. There are other things you could do, but I always like that as my first. So when I'm doing a literary essay, you guys, whoop, that's the one I'm going to need to use to help me, the bubble chart. Do I need 2 column notes in a literary? Not really. Am I going to need a tri chart? Potentially, maybe, if I'm comparing 2 things. Possibly that might go in my literary essay. Maybe. It's more, I think the tri chart and comparing is more for argument, because you have to compare 2 sides, right? And then your side versus so these all have kind of a specific purpose. All right, thinking charts, turn and talk. Talk to your partner. Where are you with graphic organizers? How is that working for you? Do you use them in your classroom to help them organize their thinking before they write? That's the big question. Turn and talk. What do you guys think?
Right?
maybe get like an email explaining these like annotate bullet points, like sketch
Yes,
labels.
yeah, all of those. You know what? I'm gonna email me and I'll tell you, you need the book, the disciplinary notice, the literacy, the foundation notebook. You don't have that.
I don't.
Okay, so what I'm gonna have you do, first of all, before I email you, is you're gonna ask Jason where to go to get that on the website. Jason in the back of the room.
Okay.
He knows, he'll let you know where you can go grab that.
Okay.
And you can actually make a copy of it. And then you and I then afterwards can have a conversation about that, okay?
Okay.
Because I have examples of those in there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we're gonna come back and do a little bit of teacher, because you're gonna do some goal setting for me as well. I'm not gonna let you leave unless you kind of have some SMART goals. Now, I want to show you why thinking charts are really what I call a big dog on my porch. I have some big dogs on the porch. I have a lot of little dogs on my porch. Little dogs I can get to when I have time, but it's the big dogs that I got to get to. So I just envision this big ranch house with this big porch and all these dogs and all these little dogs and big dogs. And I'm saying, little dogs, go back. Big dogs, you're the ones that I have to focus on because it's going to matter to my kids the most. I can't do everything, you guys. I'm tired of this. This is how much we have to do, right? I don't want this anymore. This is everything. And what are my kids going to the next year with? I can feel good that I covered 20 chapters. I can feel good that I did a billion things, but my kids probably are going home with very little in their long term, right? They're going away with some things in their short term. Instead of a lot, I want this. What does that mean? Instead of this,
Yeah.
I want this, and tell your partner what that means. So instead of everything, you guys, because I can't get to everything, I can't get to 20 chapters in a year because that just means I'm zipping through it. I have to decide, you guys, instead of this, I've got to tell myself, how can I weave some chapters together so I'm not doing all of them? How can I weave the information so that I'm doing less? But instead of doing this, I have to say, what is the most critical for my kids to know? What is the most high leverage for my kids in terms of strategies and skills? Once I determine that, then I go this, and then I give them multiple hits on that. Does that make a difference? So I cannot do that whole unit. I cannot do that whole book. It's impossible if I want my kids to remember any information. So I have to change my thinking. And by the way, I go by standards. And I know that's hard for some of you to wrap, but I teach by standards. So in my first unit, I don't care what the book says. I'm going to work on standards 1, 2, 3, and 5, or 1, 2, and 4. And I'm going to teach to those 3 standards deeply. And then I do another unit. I don't care what the book says. I'm going to work on standards 2, 4, and 5 because they didn't get to. I got to do another review. Do you see what I'm doing in my head? So I'm focusing on standards. I'm not focusing on content. I'm going to use the content to teach the what? The standards. And then I'm going to go what? With the focus on strategies. Whole different ballgame. You guys, did I do that in year 1 of teaching? Did I do that in year 10 of teaching? It took me 15 years before I started to change the way that I was thinking and teaching. It took me 15 years, and I'm now 40 plus years. So you guys, I've been at it a while, and I just am doing business differently. And my scores are good. You guys, can you relate to that? Yeah, got to figure out how to look at the critical and not everything. Because sometimes we think, and especially as a new teacher, any new teachers in here? Do you find yourself overwhelmed? Because you're like, yeah, so how do we help you focus on the good stuff? So I get it. Okay, there's 2 reasons for thinking charts, guys. Number 1, it's a note-taking strategy to begin with. So I use it in reading. So it's a note-taking. So my kids are going to use these charts to take notes as they're reading after they've annotated. So I'm going to break down the barriers of vocabulary. I'm going to teach them how to be active readers. And then I'm going to teach them how to take their active reading and their annotations and move it into a note-taking system for reading, right? For comprehension. And I love it because I'm going to teach, here's the example. I'm going to teach 2-column notes in isolation. This is how you do it. We're going to practice 2-column notes when we're reading. We're going to practice. We're going to practice. We're going to practice. Now, Most likely, if all my departments are teaching 2-column notes, which is what we want, right? When it's appropriate, no, we don't just do it for the sake of just doing it, but when it's appropriate, here's what happens, you guys. I teach the strategy, I practice it during reading. They got it. Now I apply it in what? In writing. And now in writing, it becomes a planning page before they write. Oh, is that an aha? And anybody think through that? So this is for reading as a note taking, but we're going to use that same template for writing an informative essay. Okay, turn and talk. What aha did you just get on that? So I don't have to change my template because I've already been doing it during reading time. Turn and talk. What's your aha here? Okay, so every week, you guys, now remember what I'm thinking. This is how we're going to get better at this game of teaching. Every week, I'm doing a vocabulary strategy, an active reading strategy, a thinking chart strategy every week. Because that's when you're linear, when you're thinking about what they need to do, and because our end goal is to get them to write, right? So in order to get them to write, I have to start with vocabulary. Then I have to teach them to read. And then I have to teach them how to take notes. And then I have to teach them, you see, I have to teach them some things before they can ever write that short constructed response or that essay. So in my week, I am doing every one of these steps with the mentor text that I pick for the week or the chapter that they're reading in their textbook. Yeah, Stacy.
Charts as part of their writing, even though they're not writing.
Yeah, and if they're planning, yes, it is going to be because they're going to use that to plan. I can't tell you how many times I go into a classroom where our kids are writing and they have no planning sheet. They're just they have the prompt and they start writing. They're going right. They're missing all the steps of the writing process and going right to the final, right? Because we haven't taught them how to go from step 1 of the writing process to step 2, to step 3, to step 4. And by golly, their rough draft is not their rough draft, it's their what? Their final, right? They even miss all those. Yeah.
So it's just having that conversation with kids last week as we were taking notes on, I don't remember what we were taking notes on, but we had, green, yellow.
Yes.
Red,
Reds.
red,
Mm-hmm.
red. And we talked about the difference between the dashes and the dots. And then I said, we just read this paragraph and we took these notes on this, it was probably more than a paragraph.
Yeah.
It's a section. I said, could you turn that into a paragraph and how many sentences would that be? And could you draw a conclusion based on that? And we went back and just kind of said, see, the reading and the writing, they're kind of reversible a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And success, probably that visual as well. I was in a high school that was pretty, you guys, I was working as a consultant in a high school that was, I call them my complex carbohydrates. They were not buying in. I'm telling you, it was like pulling teeth. And I couldn't quit, or they couldn't fire me. So it was like, okay, I got to find some ways to figure out how to get through this whole idea of they're not having it. I had content teachers that said, I'm not a writing teacher. I'm not doing that. I've been doing my note taking system forever and I'm not doing that. So I had a lot of pushback. So I had to find ways without saying, you big dummies, which I didn't say. I didn't. I'm saying that hilarious, but no, they're not. They're wonderful educators. I love them. They just weren't connecting. And I just, okay, how am I going to get you? How am I going to win you to my side without telling you your thinking's a little skewed? I didn't want to do that because it just makes it more difficult and it makes it worse. I said, can I get into your classroom and help and do this with your kids? Will you let me just come in? And they let me. That was a game changer because they got to then see what the kids were doing. And my thing at the high school level is that sometimes the educators go, this isn't going to work for them. I can't see them using highlighters. I can't see them annotating. I can't see them do any of that. They're going to sit back and not do it. And then excuses. They never come to school. They have a bad attitude, all the things that I get of why they're not doing something. I said, well, let me just go in and model. So I took in an article that I felt was pretty high interest, and I did it. It was low reading level, so they weren't really struggling with the words. And I actually worked on vocabulary, did a little fast mapping with them. I actually had them annotate the text using highlighters. I had them do 2-column notes. And then at the end of that lesson, I said, okay, guys, I don't want to know what you learned, but your exit strategy is to jot down some things you learned today. You guys, what do you think they said? They didn't say, I hate this. They said, now I know what to look for. Now I know how to take notes because teachers are not teaching us how to do that. It really does help kids. So we have to just start doing it. Even if we don't like it, we have to do it. And even if it takes a little bit of time, because it's kind of like slow as molasses. Okay, so you got to go slow before you go what? Fast. Got to go slow. Can't eat that elephant in one big bite. You have to take small bites. So you have to give yourself permission in year one to just go slower as kids are learning these new strategies. Okay, here's a big one, you guys, that you own. And it's a hard one. Sentence mastery or sentence styling. Okay, I'm going to give you another suggestion. I would love for you at the secondary level to spend at least one day a week working on sentence mastery. Okay? Because they need to know how to write a sentence for their thesis. They need to write a sentence for their key ideas. They need to write a sentence for their evidence. And it needs to be some short, some long, some simple, some complex. What kind of sentences are you getting? Run-ons. My Baba, 8th grade, on the phone last night. Oh my goodness, you're trying to say one thing in, 3 things in one sentence. Like, whoa, would you count how many words are in that sentence, Baba, is what I asked him. It was like 50. Okay, we got to fix that sentence. Definitely a run-on. How many things did you say in that one sentence? Oh, that comma's in the wrong place. We did a lot of that. So we have to teach them sentences. Here's the thing that I'm going to say too, because the content teacher, here's where I got to get my content teachers on board, because most of you are ELA, right? Do I have any content teachers in the room? Oh, I love you. Yes, yes. And see, we got a content teacher here. Woo! Let's give her, 3 snaps. Woo! 3 snaps. Good job. Sentence mastery is probably going to be your dog if you're an ELA teacher. If I can get my content teachers to work on vocabulary and active reading and taking notes, like, I would be so happy. Sentence mastery, I'm hoping that you guys will do so that then you can share the sentences you're teaching them with who? The content teachers, right? So that they can just help facilitate it. They're not going to have time to teach it. So that takes one thing off content teachers' plates because they're going to push back on this big time. I don't have time to teach them a sentence. But if I can get them to do the vocabulary and the active reading and the thinking charts, which makes sense because if kids are doing that in content, their comprehension is going to what? Increase, right? It's going to go up. Here's the sentence mastery. One day a week, make a note. I want simple and complex, short and long. So I'm going to teach them a variety of different sentences. Now, here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to teach them declarative, interrogative. That you can, but that's not what they're going to remember. You want to actually have names of sentences you're teaching them, like the because sentence, where you're explaining your first part. Like a but sentence. We're using conjunctions, like a but sentence, like a so sentence, right? Like a 4-part sentence, like a however sentence, like an OP, an occasion position sentence. You see, I have a list of sentences that I'm going to teach my kids. And here's what's great about this, you guys. If on my list, I've taught these, Sentences,
Okay.
occasion, position.
It is.
OP, occasion, position. A dependent clause, comma, independent clause. That's what an OP is, occasion, position. And I'm going to teach that because they're all really important. But you guys, here's what's really good about this. If you're teaching them, then you can expect it in their rough draft, because on their checklist that I give them, I'll say you have to have, under the checklist for sentences, I say you have to have a variety of sentences. I want you to tell me which 3 you actually used. And they have to actually tell me, I used a however, I used a but, and I used a for part. And then in the rough draft, they have to actually label where it's at, so I know exactly where they used it. Does that make sense? You got to up the game, which means 1 day a week I need to focus on. And there's another reason that you need to focus on sentence mastery. When I teach sentence mastery, you guys, in fact, I was just at LeGrand Middle School, and I asked them to tell me what were some of the things that their kids were struggling with when it comes to writing. And I had them put them on sticky notes. And then I had them put them on the board under specific categories like organization, vocabulary, attitude, conventions. I swear the majority of their stickies were under what? Conventions. Their kids are struggling with conventions. So we know that giving them that handout on conventions isn't working, right? It's not working. So why do we keep doing that? That's what I had to keep telling myself. That's what my mentor told me. Why do you keep doing that, Yolanda? It's not working. I go, I know. Give me something else and I'll change. I didn't like her, but I loved her, just telling you, because she made me do some things that were different and I didn't want to do, but I found they were really good. Here's what I'd like you to think about. I'm going to teach them a because sentence. Here's an example of a because sentence. I am grateful for Malheur ESD because they're focused on good work, period. Here's my because sentence. So the first part is my sentence nugget. I'm using the conjunction because, and because means to explain your thinking, and then I finish your thought, right? That's how I'm going to teach that. I'm going to teach that, and they're going to have to use a because sentence in their writing. But during the time that I teach a because sentence, that's when I focus on conventions in that sentence. And I use cups. Did they capitalize? Usage, punctuation, spelling, and is it legible? So when I'm working on conventions, in the because sentence, that's where I address it. So they're fixing it right away. Now, I'm not giving them a conventions handout and giving them random things that mean nothing to them that isn't an authentic sentence. I want them to practice a sentence that's connected to whatever they're writing about. The other thing that I'm going to do with that sentence is not only conventions, but grammar. I'm not going to give them a grammar sheet, even though high schoolers don't know what verbs, adverbs, and adjectives are. I'm not going to give them a sheet on adverbs. That isn't helping them. I'm going to address grammar in the what? The because sentence. Do you see now I'm doing 3 things in one sentence? It's transferring, you guys. When I give them a whole essay to try and do this, it's not transferring. And it's not helping them. So I'm going to teach conventions in grammar in a sentence before they apply it to their paragraph in their essay. Turn and talk. Aha here. What do you need to do differently maybe when you think of this idea of sentence mastery? And they can't write a paragraph unless they can write a good sentence, right? So turn and talk. What's your goal here? What can you do differently? What do you still need to do this differently?
Rather than because but so's together, or would you go because?
Depending on your group, what your kids can handle. If your kids can only handle 1 at a time, do 1 at a time. If your kids can handle 2, do 2. I try to kind of stick with 1 till they get because, and then I do but, and then I do so, and then I do a for. I mean, I kind of do them in isolation 1 at a time. Yeah, and then you start combining. Yes, because then I'll say, hey, I want a because but so sentence, because usually my because but so goes in one pot. So yeah, good question though. It's where you have a who, an action, a where, and a when. Who or what? Who, action, where, when. That's an example of a 4-part. Who, action, where, when. So who would be your subject? Would be like, this is random, but it's who is like your character. Ravon. Ravon is my character. Okay. Your action is your verb. What did Rayvon do? Okay, Rayvon reported. That's your action. He reported what, and then sometimes it could be in who action what, but he reported to who? Reported to his best friend. Where? At the park. So it's the W's, but it's 4 parts. Yeah, it's just 4 parts using those 5 W's. So here's an example that's off the top of my head. Hummingbirds zip where? Around the garden, when? Every day. You see, those are the 4 parts. But if you give that to kids, then they can identify and do a 4-part sentence. That's an easy one, but I usually do those with anything. It's really good. OP occasion dependent. When I think of a good dessert, comma, when I think of a new dessert, there's my dependent clause because it's not a complete thought, comma, I pick that chocolate brownie at Starbucks, period. There's your occasion. Means that sentence is the second part of it, but it can stand alone as its own sentence too. If I'm hungry, comma, I go grab an apple for a snack, period. Whenever I'm tired, comma, I take a mid-afternoon nap, period. You see what you're doing? It dependent in the middle, and there's a comma in the middle, okay? Okay, you guys, up here, all of these, again, when we think of order of things, all of these are going to help us get to that short constructed response, which is the paragraph, right? The small writing, and for literary essay, you guys, it's not a paragraph, it might be a journal entry. So you're really shooting for a paragraph to start with. And with the literary essay, it's really a journal response. So it's not a full piece done up. It's a journal entry or a journal response, okay? We're going to work on little writing, a lot of little writing before we get to what? Big writing. So I'm going to teach all these. Now they've got some good sentences in their back pocket. Now I'm going to teach them how to write little. And usually it's a paragraph with informative and a paragraph with argument. But when I'm talking about a literary, it's usually just a journal response. Very little, informal, and we're starting there, okay? Then that moves us to the essay. Okay, now what are we doing wrong in classrooms today? When you look at this schedule, which because it's taken me a while to figure out how to move it from the left to the right, turn and talk. What do you need to do differently? Because here's your goal. What do you need to do a better job of when you're looking at this map? Kind of in the order that you need to go. Turn and talk. What would be your goal? Okay, here's my pie in the sky dream, you guys. My pie in the sky dream is that if all of us, no matter what I was teaching, really had a good sense of how to attack the text that they're reading in this order, do you think our writing would be better and our comprehension, our reading would be better for kids? Yeah, so I always go, why can't we just agree on some things? And if this would be something that we should agree on, maybe in our building, that we all are going to try this and see if we can increase reading and writing by all focusing on these criteria before we ever get to the assigning of a paragraph or an essay. That's my dream. We're not there. I have some schools that are further along than others, but guys, we're just not there yet. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. I'm still trying to figure out the why of that. But if I were you, I'd go back and say, hey, can we start this work as a building? Can we start doing this? Can I do my part? And maybe I can't do everything, but what can I do that would be my part in year one? Because I think of Vale too. I think of you. I mean, your teachers will probably you know, they would go, wow, this is a lot, not for you, because I think you're a master teacher, by the way, because you're here with ELA teachers, number one, and I'm just gonna say kudos to you. But don't you, but if we all tried something, don't you think this would be just so much better for your building? What are your thoughts? Tell me, because you're the science teacher in the room. What do you think?
A lot of problems with like, I think we focus on the outcome versus the pathway to get there, and that's lost, and now we can't get an outcome. And I see it a lot when I ask them to write claims, and they can't write a claim, where they need to give me a full sentence and explanation of why they made that decision, or why they, shows that responsibility. They can't do that either. And if we could all get on board with it, I think they would get there so much faster. And see
Yeah.
the value of all of it.
Right, right. I was working with a group of administrators and I told them, you guys, when we don't hold teachers to the fire, and this is really hard because we don't want to be told what to do, but we really do. I mean, isn't that kind of an oxymoron right there? We don't like it when somebody tells us what to do, but really, I always will say, well, if you just tell me what to do, I'll do it. So sometimes I'm confused even in our own thinking on that. But you know, this idea of just, if we don't have high standards in our building, then you guys, here's the problem. Not only for students, because some students are going to get it and some students aren't, but here's the problem. We pit teacher against teacher. And I become the the mean teacher. And Mr. Hildahl becomes the nice teacher. Why do you think that kids are listing him as the nice teacher, me as the mean teacher? Why do you think they're saying that? Because my expectation bar is what? And I even heard two students out in the hallway saying, thank goodness it wasn't me in that conversation, though I'm sure my name was in there somewhere along the line, but I didn't hear my name. I heard two girls in the hallway as I was heading to class. And I heard one teacher say, or one student say, I hate so-and-so. And I kind of stopped because I wanted to like, who do they hate? And she said, she said a teacher's name. And the other friend of hers said, well, why? And because she said, why? Because I hate her because she makes me do cursive once a week and no one else does. And the other student says, oh, I get it. I don't want her either. You see what happens? That's not a bad thing, but because our expectations and our bar is different, we tend to pitch teacher against teacher. So let's all do it. So there's no pitting a teacher against teacher. And by the way, the end goal is that our students are going to get better, right? Because they're going to get more hits. Remember the 100 hits that most of our kids need. That's going to be really important. All right. What's your SMART goal? Get a sticky note. What's your one SMART goal? Pick something on here you're going to get better at. It doesn't have to be everything. Pick one. That's your SMART goal. Right now, make a choice. Decide what it is you're going to do differently as a result of today's training. What are you going to increase? You guys, because I always say doing nothing doesn't help, but doing one thing is you're on the road. I think of Rita Nelson. She's passed away since, but oh my gosh, she was great. Rita, you're on the road if you're doing something. Okay, talk to your partner. Tell your partner what your goal is, what you're going to do differently. One thing based on our foundations chart.
Yeah, I come in that one, so one, say, yeah,
Okay, guys, I did an everyone, right? I had you think, I had you ink, I had you pair, and I had you share. So already I have an everyone. So thinking isn't the everyone. The inking isn't the everyone, but the pairing and share now is everyone, but you all had something that you had on your paper. So that's an everyone. I'm going to do now an individual because I want to hear a couple of individual ones. Would somebody be willing to share what your SMART goal is, please? What you want to do differently? Yes.
I want to spend at least one day a week on sentence mastery.
Snap. 3. Everybody, 1, 2, 3, go. 3 snaps. Nice job. One more or 2 more. 2 more volunteers. Another goal. We want to hear what you're going to do. Yes.
Change the flow of how I go from reading to writing and go from like active reading to like coding the text into vocab kind of like improv.
Yes, yes.
And then from there, go into 2 column notes, or maybe just straight put their reading into a T chart as if they were the writer.
Yes.
And then go from that, researching into like an informative essay where they make their own T chart, then their own essay.
I love it. Everybody 3 snaps. Nice job. One more. One other goal. Somebody in the back. Give me something different. Oh, everybody, how many snaps? Nice job. Do you see you've got a goal? Change something, but change small. Because if I look at this, if I was new to this, I would be overwhelmed and I'd probably put it away and go, I'm going to go back to what I normally do. So really start small. Remember, start small before you go fast. Go slow before you go fast. Pick something and just get good at one thing, but know this is your end goal after how many years? 20 years, I might get there. It's just, it's an ongoing work, right? I love it. And do you think this is going to help our readers and writers? Yes, it is. All right, get your binders out. I want you to go to the very back until you find this article called Wrong Sex, Wrong Color. We're going to work on this one to model vocabulary and active reading. I'm going to give you a couple of strategies. What's that? It's in your binder and it's towards the back of the handouts. Does everybody have this? It's in your binder that you would have gotten last time. Literary analysis binder. Okay. Oh, that's good. It's your literary analysis. If you need to go grab one over there, you don't have one, go grab one. Yeah, just grab one for now to pull out the text. So just grab one. It doesn't matter what name's on it, just grab one. So everybody has one with them because I'm going to have you pull some things out. We need. I think I have an extra. No, I have an extra. Here, wait, hold on.
If I have it already.
Hold on, I have it. You need that anyway, but maybe not, but I think I have a copy of it in here that I can give you. Hold on. Here we go. Yeah, that's gonna be the one you want. There, that's it. Grab that. Yeah, that's good. It's called Wrong Sex, Wrong Color. Got it? All right. Okay, wrong sex, wrong color. This is the mentor text that I'm going to use. And remember, my Monday is to remember the 3 things that I do on Monday. Let's see if you guys remember. What are those 3 things on Monday that I'm doing? Go back to your notes because you don't have it quite yet cemented. What's my Monday job? Text features, time in text, and vocabulary. On Monday, I'm going to get to those other things, but on Monday, those are the 3 things I'm going to do. Okay, let's look at this piece of writing. It's wrong sex, wrong color. We're going to use this for our literary essay to do some deeper work on. Okay, so now what I'm going to ask you to do, you guys, is first of all, let's do a text feature walk. Hey guys, on your sticky note, let's do it so you know. The first thing I'm going to do on Monday is I'm going to do a text feature walk. So everybody, I kind of make this a game. So take a sticky note and write Monday text feature walk. Okay, so I usually play this as a game. I'm not going to have you do this because we're going to write all over this, but normally how I do a text feature walk is usually we play the game in groups, either by partners or a table group. And it's a competition because you know how middle school and high schoolers like competition. So the table that gets the most text features win. They get 2 points. Everybody else gets 1 point if you have some text features. So it's kind of like a game we play. So you're really looking for all of them. Now, what I normally have them do, I'm not going to have you do it today, but normally I have them, I'm going to do one for you. I'll say, okay, guys, remember, we're going to just skim and scan and we're just looking. You don't have to read it, but you're just skimming and scanning for text features because when we read, we want to make sure we're paying attention to those text features. So one text feature is the what? So then kids will go, oh, there's the title. That's one text feature. What else could I say about the title? Oh, it's bolded. That's 2 points, right? Hey, now without writing things down, without marking up the text, I want you to do with your partner. Let's see how quickly we can do this. I want you to list all the text features you see on these 2 pages. There's not a whole lot on these, but there's a couple. So go. See how many you can find. How many you guys have? Throw out a number. What'd you guys, how many did you find? Count up your text features. 5. How many have more than 5? Anybody have more than 5? No, no, I have 7. I have 7. You want to tell me, you want to know what my 7 are? Okay. Number 1, title, text feature. It's bolded, text feature. The font is bigger, text feature. The author, text feature. Numbers, text features. Maybe I'm only 6. And paragraphs is another text feature. They're organized by, the words are organized by paragraph. So you guys, the text feature is anything on the page except the words. That's what a text feature is. So when they could be bolded words, they could be words that are a different color, there's illustrations, there's a whole lot of different text features. Now, the thing for you guys too that's gonna be really important is you all, and I found a group of ELA teachers that I worked with about a month ago who said, oh my goodness, I don't know that I have ever done this. Do you know the difference between informative text features and narrative or literary text features? They're different. Okay, so if you don't, we need to really kind of clean that up because they're different. A literary is going to have different kinds of text features than an informational. A picture book is going to have different text features than an article. Does that make sense? So we need to make sure we're teaching that. Make a note. Need to teach text features. I need to make sure my kids know the difference between informational text features and literary text features. Okay, so that's something else to think about. I'm developing a handout for just literary. I already have one for informational. If you guys would find that helpful, I can send that to you. I'll send that to Jennifer and have them send that to you, or my little handouts that have a list of informational text features and a list of literary. If that will be helpful, I'll send that to you guys. All right, so do you see how many I play the game? Everybody got all 6 or 7? You get 2 points. Everybody else gets 1 point. That's how we play the game. All right, so that's the one thing. So Monday text features. Then I'm going to do my first read. Okay, now there are 2 ways that you can do this. Normally my first read is me doing it because I have to anticipate and kind of preview the text. So I'm going to have you do a read independently. Normally with kids, I don't say read it on your own. Rarely do I do that because then again, I'm not, there's no way that I know that they're reading it. But for active reading, hold on because I'm going to make you practice it in just a minute. Okay, so hold on. Okay, so this is your first read. This is kind of like your teacher read, but you're going to do it silently. Normally I don't do it, but I'm going to have you do it. Get your orange highlighter. Orange now. You need orange. Oh, is there no orange in there?
No orange.
Oh, I love it. What do 2 colors make orange? We know I need orange. You guys need orange. Yeah, try it. Yellow and pink. Yellow and pink. That's okay. Just do it. Try it. Okay, so you guys make a note. Orange on this sheet right here. I use an orange highlighter. So write orange highlighter because that's a color. That's not a step up color. It's a Yolanda color. An orange highlighter. Because orange means vocabulary. So I'm going to be boxing or underlining keywords that I know they're going to need, or I'm going to give them an orange highlighter and they're going to underline words that they don't know or words they know that are important, right? So orange is totally connected to vocabulary. And guys, it can be a word or a phrase. So now what I'm going to ask you to do is as you read this on your own, first read, you are going to underline using an orange highlighter words you know are critical to this passage or words you know that you're going to have to define for your kids. Go. You're reading it on your own. Take your highlighter. Okay, so right away, guess what I'm going to do, you guys? I already see one word. I am not an expert on what? I better highlight that. That's the word not my kids, my ELL probably don't know. I'm going to highlight that word. I know I'm going to have to address that word. All right, keep going. That's what you're doing. And you guys, you can always email me and I'll send you a clean copy because I know you guys, you're not wanting to write on this. Just email me and I'll send you a clean copy of this. Can I share just a real quick? I gotta stop you for a minute. Guess what, you guys? I got a 71% on an assignment I helped my nephew with, or my grandson with. And by the way, this is a new teacher and it was never taught. And he had the highest score. And he's an honors kid. And I helped him with it. And he just sent me the grade. I got a 71%.
I district last night.
Yes, but this is the assignment before that one. I'm very curious to see what I get on this next assignment. 71%? You have got to be kidding me. It was ELA and it was an information. Oh my heavens. Oh. I got a 71%, you guys. I'm dying right now. She's a new teacher. She assigned it. It was informational and they were having to compare. And I know how to compare, you guys. I know how to get a 2 on the state test. And I got a 71%. I got to talk to the teacher.
What kind of rubric did you miss? Was there even a rubric?
There wasn't a rubric.
Yeah.
Like, was it objective or subjective? I am having a conniption fit right now, you guys. My son got a 71 because this teacher here helped him through that. I'm sorry, go back. I'm like, I can't even believe it. I'm not a 70% student, by the way. I'm just telling you, I am very competitive. That would not fly with me.
That was the highest score.
And that was the highest score. Nobody actually got any better than a 71. He was 50 and below.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. No.
He's the only one that scored a 71. I go, I want to know her checklist system. I want to know how she scored that.
And her email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She can pull that on my internet. Sorry, Baba. That was 100% in terms of my checklist, but obviously. Okay, I had to share that. Small moment, go back to reading, sorry. I stopped you. I had to share my pain. Also reading, I know it's the first read, but just so I can multitask you, what would you consider the message in this? I'm going to be thinking of message too as you're reading, even though I'm kind of multitasking you. You're really reading for vocabulary, but I want you to also be thinking, what's the theme, the message in this? This is going to help us when we go to our next. Well, you're going to read it twice. Oh, that doesn't matter. You're okay. Just looking for words is fine on the first read. And sometimes you need quiet, no interruptions, so I'm being a very bad teacher here. Yeah, I'll be interrupting you. I'm sorry. Yes. This is an actual personal narrative from a 16-year-old. He won it. This isn't a book. That's it's an essay that kids actually write. And it's called Right from the Heart. It's a book. Anyway, he's the winner this year because they always every year do this little competition. And so this student actually won. He was the one that won. It's his personal story. It's his narrative. I know. Can you believe it? Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not even better than you.
I know. I know. I'm still on that 71%, you guys. I'm not gonna let that go. Okay, so most of you are probably towards the end or getting there. In your group, because you're going to do this together, in your group as a team of 4 or 3, however, whatever's in your group, you're going to pick your top most critical words that you think are going to be really important when I think of a literary essay or analysis. What 3 words do I really want to spend a little bit of time on? Okay, so choose those 3 words that you think are going to be key. So share the words you highlighted, and you're going to pick 3 of them in your group. Which 3 words are going to be key? And 3 words you're going to want them to use in their literary analysis. Pick 3, your top 3, because I'm going to do some fast mapping with all of them probably, but I'm only going to break down maybe 3 of them. Okay, everyone got them? Got your 3 words? Okay, I'm going to model 1, and then I'm going to let you practice 1 as a group. And we're going to practice the strategy breaking down definitions, okay? So I'm not going to do the Freire model on this. I'm going to teach you a different strategy. The Freire model is definitely one of those non-negotiables, but I want to make sure that I'm teaching you a variety of strategies. So take a lined piece of paper and fold it in half. Okay, guys, lined piece of paper, fold it in half. And then take your pencil and go ahead and divide it because it's kind of a 2-parter. Okay, so this is called breaking down definitions. So let's write our strategy up in the corner, breaking down definitions. And the skill is vocabulary. Okay, so now I know my skill and my strategy. So if I'm doing my learner objective might be students will, or I can do an I can statement, or I can do a T-star dash, but my activity is literary essay. My topic is literary essay. My skill that we're going to be working on is vocabulary. We're going to practice vocabulary with the strategy of breaking down definition, and we're going to use, our activity is going to be a mentor text called wrong color, wrong sex, wrong color. See how that's my learner objective right there. I listed the concept, I listed the skill, vocabulary, and I listed my strategy, breaking down definition. What's my activity? Reading the article or the story, wrong sex, wrong color. You guys, true story, by the way. Personal narrative. So good. All right, so we're going to take this, draw our line here. We want to divide this into 3 sections. Okay, so divide this top part into 3 sections. It's like that. This is called breaking down definitions. Okay, that's what this is called. Okay, so in this, we're going to be working on T equals vocabulary, or we can say wrong sex, because I'm going to do a few of this, wrong sex slash or a comma, wrong color. What color is our topic, you guys? It's not, here's the other thing I'm going to tell you, please don't change colors. This is not something you can be creative. T is green. Don't change it. I have some teachers that want to change that to purple or orange or mix up the colors, and we can't do that for kids. It's very confusing. There are 3 things that we're going to do. Notice my yellows. There are 3 things that I need in my 3 boxes. The first box is to identify the term or the vocabulary word. So this one is, so what's the word we're going to be breaking down today? So here's my vocabulary word. In this box, we're going to break it down. And in this last box, we're going to sketch and label. And by the way, for more content, more of my content kids, especially in areas like science and history, this is the part they remember the most. Not so much of this or this, but it's the picture that they draw that really helps them remember that word. So to me, sketching and labeling, even at the high school level, is really key for kids because it's going to be the thing that they remember the most. All right, so we're going to put our words. Our word today is discriminate. What's our word today? Okay, let's write that. I could totally fast map it. But you guys, I always make my kids here loop it. So with your partner, see if you can loop it. What would it look like if you loop it? Say it to yourself. Discriminate. Discriminate. Loop it on paper. Right? Discriminate. Discriminate. Do you see how many parts? Discriminate. Or it could be in, right? In, sorry guys, in, because ATE is that suffix. So it's discriminate. So discriminate. Discriminate.
Clench your teeth, it's, you can hear it better.
Yeah, it's all in your mouth and yeah. Yeah, and I pound, I mean, at the lower grade levels, you guys, elementary, you guys probably don't know this, but oftentimes they're doing what they call pounding. Discriminate, or discriminate. How many parts? And we talk about numbers. I have to do that with my older kids too, by the way, because they're not pronouncing words correctly. They're not spelling words correctly. And if they're not spelling, they've got some phonics issues. So even at the high school level, I still want them. And the other thing too, and it goes back to morphology, parts of words. This is what's this called? This is a prim. Yeah, right? In 8. What do those parts all mean? You know, we got to really start to help kids with that on breaking that down and thinking prefix and root word and suffix. That's morphology, but we got to definitely increase our knowledge in that. Okay, our word, I also will tell them to do parts of speech. So here's down here, I'll say another thing. I'll say, well, what part of speech is this? So is this a noun, a verb, an adjective? What do you guys think? To discriminate is a what? It's a verb. Now, sometimes we can take a word and it might mean more than, sometimes it can be a verb and a noun, or it can be more than one thing. So I always say today, guys, we're going to use this word as a verb. To discriminate. That tells us it's an action. To discriminate, it's a verb. So I'll even start to work on my parts of speech here. It's a verb. Okay, now we've got our word. We've got our pounding. We've determined our part of speech. Now we're ready to break it down. So up here, I'm going to tell them what they're going to do, and then we're going to do it. So we're going to have a dash and a dot. So the dash in this strategy is for them to come up with a synonym of that word. The dot is to come up with what I call descriptors. And it's very specific to what I'm asking for the descriptors. Okay, now this is where we're going to say, this is our vocabulary word. Now we're going to break down. So what I want them to do is I want to say, what is a synonym of that word? Sometimes I even make them tell me 2 different synonyms for that word. Okay, so the word is discriminate. So I want to know what are 2 synonyms. What's that?
The bullet point looks like a number 9.
No, ignore that.
Oh.
Yeah, I know that there's no meaning to that. A descriptor, and that's right? Okay, so I'm gonna go, okay, so tell your partner, you don't have your phone, but just what do you think are some other words that come to mind when you think of the word to discriminate? Tell your partner if you can come up with words just on your own. What does to discriminate? Because remember, he said, when we discriminate and commit racist crimes. Now, by the way, you guys, to discriminate can mean both positive and what? Negative, right? Because you can discriminate in a positive way. So for example, disfavor would be a negative, but favor could be a positive. So I'm going to say in this one, discriminate was not positive, was what? It was negative, right? So I'm going to say, okay, gosh, discriminate means to single out. Oh, does that work? Give me a snap if I say something you agree. To single out. Disfavor. To favor. To play with. See, I'm going to throw in some non-examples. Yeah. See, I'm going to actually throw in some because you remember they're snapping for what's right. I'm going to throw in it. I'm going to throw in one and see if they snap. That'll tell me if they're really listening to me. So again, I shouldn't hear any snaps because that's a non-example. So sometimes I'll trick them and throw in a non-example to see if they'll snap or not. To set apart, snap or not. To show bias, snap or not. Very good. So let's pick two. Let's do single out. Let's just pick two. Single out. And then I'm going to listen, you pick another one. Single out, disfavor, set apart, show bias, based on this article, this story, this narrative. I'm going to say show bias, don't you think? The good one? Or set apart, but I'm going to put show bias. Okay, so now we've got some dots. Now, how do I get my kids to give me descriptors? Now, I usually start, and here's what I want. I want as many dots as possible. Yes.
Okay, I would have a problem. I like as a grown-up, I like show bias, but as an eighth grader living here, I don't like that because then they don't know bias.
Okay, so then pick another word then.
What's the other one that you said before?
I said set apart.
Set apart.
There you go, put that. So yeah, think of your grade level too, and think of what they know and don't know. So good point. If that's too hard and I'm going to have to now break down bias, because then I'm going to have to break down bias because they don't know bias. So just make sure it's a totally good point. So if your kids are going to struggle with the word show bias because they don't know what bias means, then pick something else that they're going to be able to grab onto. So very good point. My seniors hopefully would know bias, but maybe not. So again, I don't want to die by a suicide because I don't want to assume that they know or don't know anything. So set apart. Set apart would really be good. Set apart. I'm going to put that up because that's really good for especially our lower level kids. Set apart. They're different, right? Set apart. Okay, now I gotta add some descriptors, you guys, and I love this because this is now where the thinking comes in. It's the higher level thinking. To get the dots, and you guys, I want as many dots as possible, but oftentimes I don't get them. So I'm looking for the 5 W's plus the H. So there's 6 dots, 6 potential dots that kids could give me. So now here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Sometimes I'll do it random, but I really want you guys to connect it back to wrong sex, wrong color. So now comprehensions. So I'm going to ask who in this article was discriminated against. Rayvon, right? There we go. Now I can even say, now here's what I love. I like to kind of attach it to the text I'm reading because then I'm increasing comprehension. But you guys, I then sometimes say, let's think a whole world, big world. Who usually gets discriminated against? Let's think of an example. When we think of the word discriminate in our world, who gets discriminated upon? There, see, I'm doing it based on text, but I'm also thinking real world, big world, because we get discriminated against a lot. I mean, by our color, right? I was discriminated against when I moved into a very white farming community when I was first, when we first moved into an Oregon farming community. They called me all sorts of names. I'm sure some of them, a pepper belly, a speck. I mean, I got all those names when I was 5 years old from other kids. So see, I was discriminated against based on my color. And so I can totally come right in and say, man, I've got some personal stories about what Rayvon experienced based on color. Do you see what you're doing here? So specific to the text they're reading, but then also doing it whole world, text to world, text to world. Have them think about it outside of the story. I think that's important. Well, where was Rayvon when he was discriminated against? Where was he, you guys? He was at the park. Give an example in our world where people are discriminated against, just quickly. We'll just talk about where. Tell your partner where. Yeah, and kids will say everywhere, and I say, I can't picture that. You got to be specific. Give me a specific. Got to be specific. Can't say everywhere. I don't know where everywhere is. Give me a specific. Okay. When, let's see if we can get all the W's. When was he discriminated against? When? It was like in the afternoon, right? When? It was afternoon, right? He was in the afternoon that he was discriminated against, afternoon. And then again, we can say in the whole world, when are we discriminated against, okay? And maybe, and have them again be specific because they like to go everyone, everywhere, because, I mean, like, you need these big overall, you got to make them go specific. And I would say, I can't picture that. Give me something more. Okay, so let's do what might be a tough one. Let's wait for what. So we've got who, where, when. Oh, this is higher level thinking. Why was Rayvon discriminated against? Why? And then I'll say, what are the other reasons that people are discriminated against? Not just color, right? We're discriminated, size. There's a lot of things that we're discriminated against. So I really want them to compare the story to real life and to themselves. How does it look, you guys? How does it look to be discriminated against? How does it look? Okay, so let's think of Rayvon. How did it look? How did he experience discrimination? How? Huh? Well, how did it happen? How was it? It was the police officer, right? The police officer made some assumptions, right? So it was police officer.
Whoever called them in.
Yeah, there was more than how. So it was the police officer, but it was also the phone caller. What do we call that person? Nicely, you guys. We got to think of a good name for that, a nice name for that, you guys. You know what we're talking about. I might have another word for that, but then I'm discriminating right away. So there we go. Police officer and also the person who called in the complaint, right?
I don't know what you.
It's the caller. Yeah. So do you see now what? See, I'm always thinking when I'm having them break it, what's a hard one? If I'm having to really think about what the what is, that's a hard one. So I don't always have them. So if I'm having a hard time thinking of what to pose to kids, then I leave it off. Because can you think of a what? Because we got our who, we got our where, we got our when, we got our why, and we got our how, but what, I'm not sure that I can fit that in this word. So I'm going to leave it off. See, it's okay to leave some of these off. Already, do you see how powerful this is? For this story and also for real life. Now we're going to come over here. Would you sketch what it looks like? You can even sketch anything. Now I'm going to come over here and I want you to sketch and label how Rayvon was discriminated. Give me some pictures of how Rayvon was discriminated against. So I'm going to have a picture of Rayvon. I might be a park. He might be in a wagon with a little, you guys draw something right here for me that tells me that somebody is being discriminated against, that Rayvon was being discriminated against. So just sketch something real quick. You don't have to be an artist, just sketch something. And by the way, if my kids sketch, they have to label. So I better see some words on the sketch. So I'm definitely going to have that, what I call the wagon, because that's really important. Because who was in the wagon, you guys? You know? This takes a little bit of time, so that's why, I try to do maybe one a day. If I'm picking out three, you guys, I don't have to do all three at one time because it's a lot. So I might spread out those three words along the week. It might be, I'm going to spend one more time maybe on the first word when I'm modeling it, but then on the other two words, I'm going to let you all do it, which means I might do, it might be my bell ringer on Tuesday and my bell ringer on Wednesday. Do you see how you're doing? It would then be a bell ringer. They can come in. I would never assign a bell ringer that I haven't already showed them how to do. It's never going to be new learning for a bell ringer unless I'm asking them to think about something, but usually it's a preview or they've already had a hit. So on Monday, my big word is to discriminate, but on Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm going to get to my other two words that I think are really important. Now, this is what I call phase one of instruction. So for a while in their notebook, they're just going to have a lot of these. in a notebook. I have a little book that says words matter. And so it's automatically set up like this, and kids just open up their words matter book and they just actually do it right in the book. Now, halfway through the book, then I'm going to add phase 2. So here's phase 2. But you guys remember, I'm going to do phase 1 until kids can what? So I have to assess this after so many. And if 80% of my kids can complete a breaking down definition on their own, then they're ready to do phase 2. Is that making sense? So I'm going to practice this, practice this, practice this. And I'm going to assess them to see if the majority of it can do it if I give them a word. Okay. If they're ready, what? At least 71 for me. Yeah. 71 would definitely be where I would put that number. And thanks for reminding me and making me even mad about that. I am getting over it. And now you brought it up again. And now I'm really mad again.
Like
Yeah.
that paper.
Yeah, that's 71%. I can't even wait to get on the phone. All right, you guys. All right. Okay, let's divide this bottom part into 2 parts. Okay, now there are 2 things that I'm wanting here. I'm wanting them to give me what I call it's one perfect sentence. So that's one thing that I want them to be able to do. I want them to give me that one perfect sentence, meaning perfect's the key word. I want it to be perfect. That's one thing that I want. But the second thing that I want, because it's a vocabulary term, not just a regular old sentence, I want what I call a meaningful sentence. Meaning that you're going to write a sentence that the reader, you have enough information in that sentence that I know what that word means. It's called a meaningful sentence. That's my job here, you guys. The other thing that I'm going to do is here's my editing pencil. Okay, so my editing pencil that they're going to use, because I have a little bookmark that's the editing pencil that they use, or it's on my board. This is your C, your U, your P, your S, and your plus. So did they capitalize? First word, proper nouns, all that. Usage, subject-verb agreement. You guys, this is the hardest one. Kids don't know usage. They know if it sounds right, but not even these days, they don't even, what they say sounds good. So then I can't even get them to say it out loud and for them to say it didn't sound right, because to them it sounds good. So I gotta be careful, I gotta be careful on that one, because they'll say it and I'll go, what's wrong with it? And they go, well, nothing. It sounds pretty good to me. And it's like there's some errors. P is what? Punctuation. S is what? Spelling. Some teachers are changing that to sentence stretching. You guys, again, don't be creative. S is spelling. Because then kids are going to be confused what the S is. And a plus is it legible? And I know you guys do a lot of work on computers, but you've got to get them to practice writing. That's going to be really important on paper. And in fact, there's research that says writing is more important than computer work, by the way. And you guys are taking breaks. You've got shame on me again. I need to get you out, but we're going to stop a little bit early, so hang in there. If you need to go and take a break, do that, please. You guys, I'd like you to up your writing on paper for your kids, not do so much technology. Because their technology, they know how to play the game of school and they know how to help use the spell check and all that. So you got to get them to write on paper more than on technology. And if you want some research on that, I have a really good article right now that really it talks about why writing is really important, and we can't shortchange that for technology. So if you need some evidence and some, some,
Can you send that up?
it's a good article that really kind of tells you why we need to do more writing and less technology. So I can send that to you. Yeah.
Is that though based on a population that is more accustomed to it, where your brain is wired to that earlier on? Nothing at all.
Nope. Yeah, and so I always have known that, but I found an article that really just solidifies it. So if you need that article for some evidence, I'll send it to you guys. It's really good. So then I'm making them, now perfect means that all this is perfect. Now you guys, if it's not perfect, I don't give them an F. What do you think I do? They have to redo it. There's no Fs in my room. Unless you really do not do anything, there are no Fs in my room, because you may not get an A in my room, but by golly, you're going to do it until you know it and learn it. I'm not going to let you opt out because you just chose to do it haphazardly or because you chose not to do it. Not in my room. No Fs. You're doing it. So if you didn't pass, this is going to help you on your test. So you're going to redo it. So you may not get an A, but you're going to get no less than a D. You're not going to fail in my room because I'm going to make you what? Redo it, because it's important learning. Why would I give them an F? Unless they literally truly do not do it, there's just no Fs. There's no excuse for an F. Do it over until you get it because you need the information. Why am I teaching it? If it didn't matter, then I guess I would think differently, but I'm teaching something that you need to know. So by golly, you're going to do it until you get it, at least a C anyway. Maybe not an A, but we're going to work on it until you get a C. Again, so we want to make sure that it's perfect. So if it's not perfect, I just give it back to them and say, hey, you didn't get an A, but to get a C, you have to fix it. Do you see? You're not going to get an F because I'm going to harp on you until you do it. That kind of thing. Meaningful means, let's talk about it. Now, here's oftentimes kids will give us what I call a pointless sentence. So a pointless sentence means they use the word in a sentence, but it doesn't help me know what it is. Here's an example. People discriminate. This is an example, period. Okay, so I've used the word in a sentence. People discriminate. That's a good short sentence, but does it tell me what it means? That's called a what? Pointless. That's pointless. Doesn't help me. So wrong. Okay, sometimes kids will do this. They'll give me what I call a dictionary sentence. That means not good. Not that sentence. We don't want that. Okay, check mark. That's off. We don't want a pointless sentence. So now I want to show you, sometimes my kids will give me a dictionary sentence. That's when they just define it. Discriminate means what? To single out. Nope, I don't want that. Okay, so that's a no. I want a meaningful, which means they have to write a sentence that in that sentence gives me some context clues on what that means. So I'm going to let you practice it. What would be a sentence that you could write with the word discriminate that helps me know in that sentence what it actually means? Turn and talk. See if you can come up with a sentence. Here's mine too, compared to yours. Here's mine. Is mine a meaningful? So do you know what it means by some of the words that I used? I've got some good, in a Ray-Ban was discriminated based on his color in a negative way. Do you now know what discriminate means? That's a meaningful sentence. You write a sentence where that your student is giving you some context clues to help you understand what that word means inside that sentence. Yes.
So I get this a lot of times with my students, some words.
What?
Because your root word is discriminate, so do you want them to keep that or change it with?
If they can use the past tense or I let them, because if they use it correctly, then they've got a derivation, or they're using a derivational form of that, and I'm like totally okay because I'm using it, and it's not spelled correctly, right? You guys, this isn't perfect. What's wrong? I did it on purpose, but not really. This is not a perfect sentence. Look at my sentence. What's wrong? What error do I have? Don't tell me what I did wrong. Tell me what error I made. A C, a U, a P, an S, or a plus. I have an S.
And you.
Yeah, see, I have two errors there. So this is how I help my kids when they're editing their own work, they're revising their own work. For if I was my own student, I would say, Yolanda, you have one S error and you have one U error. Go fix it. See what I've just done? I'm helping them, but I'm not telling them what it is. So what's my S error? Discriminated. What's my U error?
You
Yeah.
could have done the line that it's on initially.
Yeah, normally I'll say, and you guys, if you really want help, sometimes I'll do this, but to help kids, I'll say you have an S on line 1 and you have a U on line 2. Do you see what you're doing? I'm helping them, but you guys, I am not going to be their editor anymore. I refuse. Not me, I'm going to teach you how to edit, but you need to do the heavy lifting, kiddos. You need to figure out what errors that you're making and not rely on your mom or your dad or your best friend or Mrs. Westerberg. I'll help you.
I usually just like circle C, but I like that you put it on the.
Side, no, let them figure it out themselves. But you guys, here's the deal. They'll buy into it because they're only having to edit how many sentences, you guys? One sentence, so they can do it. If I make them edit a whole essay, they hate it, I hate it, their parents hate it, everybody hates it. So teach them how to edit with one sentence first, or with the two sentences, when you bring two sentences together. And then help them by putting the error on the line that they have the error, and then I say, go find it. Let them fix it. So I think this is another thing to think about when you're looking at that based, it should be D's. It's actually, is that usage or is it, it's also for usage fund? Yeah.
So when you get to phase two, you do just the one further sentence, or do you do the top and bottom?
Yeah, in phase two, now you have to do both. Now, sometimes you guys, remember in their Words Matter booklet, you guys, I have 10 examples. So I don't make them as I do a new word. I say, let's go back, find one of your words, and I'll show you what phase two is. Do you see? I'm not going to just necessarily pick a new word to do both. They've already done the top part. So I'll say, okay, guys, you're really good at the top, so now I'm going to teach you how to do phase two, which is the bottom part. So I want you to go to your book. I always have a model one in their book, always one that I've done. So they can always go back and say, this is exactly what is expected. So they always have one that's the model page, and then they have the one that they practice. I'll say, let's go back to the model one. I'll pick it. I mean, I've already done it, and let's do part two, and I'll show you how to do it. Now you pick one of the ones you've done and do part two. Does that make sense, or phase two? Vocabulary, woo, takes time, but is it worth it? Yes, don't shortchange vocabulary. So that is phase one, phase two. Talk to your partner, reflect, plan. What are you gonna do? And if you need to take a break right now, do that, please.
One of the things that I started doing is that they, right? This is very professional. We do send it out as secretary, and then I give them, I don't do extra credit, just one extra. It's my example. And people who do it don't need it, just people that should need it, don't do it. So, so if they use the vocabulary or screens, they can turn it on their vocabulary. Vocabulary is what it's on now, they well. If they recognize it, if they're not.
Okay, right, guys.
They recognize. So, you're and they send me with that, the title, the page number, word, yes, sentence in their book. Then they get one copy. So then and they are doing it. I mean, they are finding out so they're using this word and otherwise. So, and it's super, so there's not even in a grade book, there's not even category, there's extra credit, so the parent doesn't even go. It's just like, no, 10, 12 times out of 10 on top. And some of the in our class here too, we did an art thing over see, and that was the kind of thing where it was like extra credit. But
Did I learn anything?
yes.
I know, I'm totally with you on that. Good idea. Though I would want extra credit for my 71% assignment that I got. I'm definitely gonna need some extra credit for that.
Yeah. It's a finding, and I didn't do all of them. I just picked the ones that are, I think are. We can do this because I'm going to say it. Everyone else is now. Yes.
I like my flying spotter too.
Yeah, like, where is it?
And I didn't.
New learnings are my oldies here, but new learning, what's learning you guys have been doing forever. And we did page, what's learning today.
Yes, because I was there. She's been on all. No,
This is new.
I was gonna say that. That one and we were talking about, we wanted to know more about the morphology.
Yeah. I was gonna see you guys. I'm back in jail.
Is there somewhere spot like danger? Someone we should. I don't think anymore.
Yeah, I think right now. Right now, I'm not. Okay. Did you?
Very low.
Monday, post-it note, text feature, walk first read. What were the other?
Okay, so then, let me see, what do I have, where do I have on here? I'm gonna put that somewhere. Oh, here. Okay, so after the first read, and we've looked at vocabulary, right? The first read is to really look at vocabulary. And then I'm gonna do a second read. And I'm gonna practice some time and text strategies. And I'm gonna do a third read. And on the third read is where I'm gonna teach them to annotate. But I'm not having necessarily reading the whole thing because you only have one day to do all that. So you got to do most of it, you're reading it all the way through once, and they're just doing a second read for a part of it, and then they're doing a third read for a part of it.
Okay.
Okay, so unless you make this a 2-day, or are you in a 4-day week or a 5 or?
4 day.
So you could actually, so now think of 8 days, not 5 days, because you're in 4 days. So think about doing this. Maybe this is your Monday, Tuesday. You have 8 days now,
Yes.
and then you can
okay,
slow down a bit.
Okay.
If you're a 5-day week, I couldn't try to do this in 5 days, but because you're a 4-day, I would do this and think of your week as 2 weeks because you don't have a Friday. So think of your week as 8 days.
Okay.
And you might want to do this Monday and Tuesday. So right, Monday and Tuesday for you.
What, okay, what is time and text?
I'll talk to everybody, so hold on,
Okay.
hold on. Okay, guys, Can I have you back? I know I didn't give you a very long break, but let's kind of keep moving. I'd like to get you out a little bit early. Are you okay with that? I thought maybe you might be good, be really good with getting out a little bit early. Yes, that I'm going to. So you guys, if we need to get out early, because I need to get out early too, we got to work fast here in the next half hour, so I can get you out a little bit early. Nobody's disappointed, right? Okay, let's go back to this sticky note. You guys remember the sticky note that I said, this is what I do on Monday? I finished it for you. Eyes up here. Now, you guys, here's what I'm going to tell you. If you're a 4-day week, think of your week as being 2 weeks because you don't have school on Friday. So this is going to help you to start with. So think of your week being Monday through Thursday, Monday through Wednesday, Thursday is your assessment day. So right? This is what I do. So if it was a week, my Friday is my assessment day. So if you're a 5-day school, I teach on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I assess them on Friday to see if what I need to teach the next week. I can't not assess them. So I'm going to on Friday assess them. Can they break down a word? Can they annotate? Can they, whatever I'm teaching, I'm going to assess on Friday. That's going to tell me whether we need another week to review or whether I can move on to another strategy. So that's why I have to assess every Friday. So my kids just know that. Now, I kind of like the 2-week approach because then now for me, I can slow down. So if you're a 2-week, then think of your 7 days are instruction. Your 8th day is your assessment. So you're going to teach Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday becomes your what? Your assessment day to determine what you do the next 2 weeks. And then this gives you opportunity to slow it down. That's how I would do it if I were you guys. You can do it however way you want. Could be 5 for 1 week. But because I'm really focusing on skills and strategies, if I were you, would stretch that out to 2 weeks and have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday be your teach. Monday, you're gonna have to review on Monday because of the weekend, right? Monday review, Tuesday, Wednesday, keep teaching. And then Thursday, that last second Thursday, you're going to assess them on whatever you've been teaching them. Strategy wise, not so much content. That's different. I might have to teach test them on content, but right now I'm not worried about content. I'm worried about strategies. Okay. And really it's connected to the content because if they're annotating and it is content, right? It is. Okay. So now the other thing that I would do if you're doing a 4-day week. So then instead of doing all this on one day, then this is your Monday, Tuesday look. So you're going to do a text feature walk. Your first read is to focus on vocabulary. Then your second read is time and text. So that there's a question about that. So I'm going to have them do a second read, which is time and text. And you guys, they don't have to read the whole thing to do the second read and the third read. Second read, I'm going to have them read a portion. Third read, a portion. In the second read, now I'm getting them to practice rate and fluency of reading. Okay, so that means they're all reading, but not silently. Yes.
Portion is the third read, the same portion.
The same thing. Could not necessarily, I might say, and you guys, I always will number their paragraphs. I always do A, B, C. I always make sure that they're labeling their paragraphs because I'll say, Case, today in your second read, paragraph E is really important. So we're gonna do some time and text on paragraph E. Do you see what I'm doing? I actually might assign that. Or I'll say pick one for kids. So these are kind of numbered by, so I'll say, okay, today, guys, we're going to reread. Our second read is on paragraphs B and C. Do you see how I'm doing that with them? I'm not going to do the whole thing, but we're going to reread B and C. Now, I need to employ some time and text strategies. So let's take out another sticky note. So you'll know what time and text strategies. I'll send you the sheet that has a whole plethora of strategies for time and text. So I'll just try to help. Somebody needs to email me and say, hey, can you send us the time and text strategies? If somebody would do that, that would be helpful. And then I can send it to Jennifer. I'm going to forget, I know. Time and text strategies, okay? Yeah, so put them on there. And then if one person, then I'll send it to Jennifer and say, Jennifer or Jason, send it out to you. Okay, so let's write T equals time and text. And remember, you guys, they're all reading. It's in everyone. So what am I going to do to get everyone to be reading? Not silently. That's not my time and text. So one way to do it is what I call a close read. C-L-O-Z-E. It's a close read. Okay, now you guys, this sounds really elementary. I know. And they're gonna think it's elementary, but you know, I really don't care. Because it's gonna help them. Now, a close read, all of these are, sometimes these are choral reads. And when we do a choral read at the secondary level, it is never 100% choral read because kids don't, they opt out, don't they? So if I say, let's choral read the sentence together, I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. I used to do choral reads and it's a battle all the time. So I don't do that anymore because I don't get everybody 100% doing a choral read because they, especially at the high school level, they opt out. So I got to change up my strategies. So my close read is, and I talk about my power finger, especially important at the elementary level. This is your power finger. Now at the high school, you got to be careful because their power finger is not going to be maybe this finger. Unfortunately. So we got to be careful about that. But I'll say this is going to help us do the choral read. Now, my little kiddos don't even think of that. It's my older ones. But my power finger is going to help track my words as we're reading. So that when Mrs. Westberg stops at a word, everyone reads that word together, right? Does that make sense? Now, you guys, if I have a lot of low readers, I'm not going to pick a word that they don't know or they can't pronounce. I'm going to pick words that they know so that I can get them to do this strategy with me. So let's do this let's start with A1. A. Everybody power finger, you're going to follow along with me if you can. This is something I teach my kids. It's not that you're elementary, it's just to help you keep track of your words, okay? I am not an expert on, there you go, nor do I have a in race. That is a close read. That's it. You stop, where you stop, everybody reads. So they're following along with you, and when you stop, they read the word. That's called.
Get them to do it. They're not gonna like it for a while, but I just say, something that Kevin Feldman, when he would come around and do walks, he would say 100% participation 100% of the time. And so I just keep saying it, expert on, expert on, expert on, until I look around the room and pretty soon the person who's not doing it is going ignorance, ignorance, because they've heard it 5 times. So now they're gonna, and they're like, peer pressure is.
Yeah, big.
Everybody's like, say the word so we can move on.
Yeah, yeah. A peer pressure, that's really good. And like I said, they don't like it initially, but then they get used to what we do and then it's fine.
Yeah, mix it up and jump it over a little bit and do a different
Yeah,
strategy.
yeah,
so that you're not
yeah.
feeling-
Yeah, so here's the next one. Phrase by phrase. Now, it's usually first me, phrase by phrase. Usually you guys, it's me that's doing it, but eventually kids are doing it. So normally to start with, it's teacher students, but then after that, it can be students. Let me give you an example. We're going to read on to part B. We're in B, power finger going. In every sentence, I'm going to read the first part of the sentence. So you guys are going to read what? The rest of the sentence. Now, this first one's pretty short, so I'm going to just read it. So what do I desire? Question mark. Okay, let's go. Where I stop, you finish it until you get to the period. I long to see the day when all people can up, stop. Remember together. That's why our power finger is really important. I see how I do this with kids. We're doing it together. That's why that power finger, again, let's try it again. I long to see the day when all people can and commit racist crimes against. Do you see how I come in to help kind of keep the pacing going? I try to stay out of it, but if they're starting to get off pace, kind of what you guys did, I just come right back in and get them back on track again. So because they're going to have some fast readers and you're going to have some slow readers. So in order to do that, you guys want to really slow that down, and then you want to come in if you need to do the support. Okay, that's a phrase by phrase. Next one, sentence by sentence. Now, I don't have to model this one because you guys, I read sentence 1, you read what? And then the other person reads sentence. There we go, got it. The next one is called paragraph by paragraph. Now, you guys, the point of this, paragraph by paragraph, is for kids to practice the what? The reading. Now, this is where pairing kids up is going to be real important because you don't want to pair a non-reader with a high reader. My highs stay together because I got to keep moving them if they're partnering. I partner my middles and lows together, and I really am mindful of who my non-readers are. And you guys, I will go to the nth degree to give them a lower lexiled article that's on the same topic, but lower level. Now, you know how I do that now? It takes a lot of work. And I know some of you are going to go, I don't have time to do that. You guys, I was just doing a model lesson in an ag class in Echo, Oregon, ag. like they could have wiped the floor clean with me. We were talking about prime beef and I learned so much, but I mean, literally, I had to read an article with them about prime beef and the different ways that you rate them and all that. And it was too, when they said that's what we're reading, and then she told me that her students were pretty low level. I said, well, this article is not going to be appropriate because how am I going to get them to annotate and to do time and text if they can't even read the words? She goes, you're right. I said, so what the coach and I did is we took the article, gave it to AI, and AI actually just lowered it 2 grade levels. And then we printed that off and gave that to them. And they were that much more successful. So can we do this, you guys? Can we give them lower text? Yes, so they're practicing reading. If you give them too hard a text, they're not practicing reading because they can't even what? They can't read. So the point is to read. So start getting what I call at grade level or at their level text. And sometimes AI is really good to just plug that in and they lower it right away. Okay. All right. Here's my favorite called radio read. And I've got more on there, but here's one that I really like. It's called radio read. So radio read, you guys, notice the radio. If the when you want the radio to volume to go up, what do? Turn it up. When you want, if the radio is too loud, what do? You dial it down. So this is called radio read. Now this is my rule. We're going to be reading passages C, D, E, and F, right? I'm going to tell them which passages they're reading. They're reading it out loud, but they're whispering. So the radio is low. So everybody is reading. Now, if I don't say time's up, if you get to the bottom, you can opt out. Guess what you go? You get to do it with the reader. You go back and you continue to read, okay, until I say stop. So they're going to continue to read on that low volume of the radio, and everybody's practicing reading. I should see everybody's lips, and I should see that everybody's not silent reading, but out loud. Now, here's my job as a teacher. This is where you can sit your desk during this time. You're walking around, and as soon as I come to one of my students and place my hand on her, or I'm just standing by her, she gets to turn the radio up, and now you're going to read to me. So that I can now start to make some notes about this reader. So then I come up here, and then her volume goes up, and she reads. And then when I walk away, then you go back to silent reading, or still reading, and I move to the next person, right? And then I stop here, you're going to turn the radio up, and you're going to read loud to me. As soon as I walk down, you're going to turn the radio down, keep reading. And this is where I get to then go around and hear their rate, their expression, what they're struggling with. Yeah, does that make sense? Love it. Do I do that often? No, because it takes some time. But it's a good one and gets you out of your day. And then when you go back and see it, like, or I can work on it. Well, man, it's, you know. If you're really good at getting kind of a test, see what I'm doing, and then looking to the read. How many of you have time to listen to them read? It's hard. The radio read causes you as the teacher to get and listen to the read. Okay, turn to top, time and text. What do you like about it? What can you do? One day, doesn't have to be much. What can you do for radio read? Yes.
If somebody's having trouble expressing when they're reading, what are some things that we can teach them?
If they're not being expressive in the reading,
Yeah, like they're just very monotone.
you have to model that. So you're going to model it and then they repeat.
Okay.
And you say, let's look at our exclamation point. If it has an exclamation point, I'm going to have to read it differently. So I'm going to read it the way it needs to read it and like you read it. So it's a lot of I do, you do. Oh, just do that.
Okay.
So that they start, so you start to hear that inflection. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's just.
Oh, that's good. I do.
All right, you guys, are you ready for one more before you go home, real quick?
Yes,
Can you handle one more?
yes.
Oh, I need to hear some snaps. Are you ready for one more strategy? Good. Let's do this quickly so you can get out of here. Piece of paper. You're gonna fold it in half. Blank piece of paper, guys. Blank piece of paper, fold it in half. You guys have been fabulous today. We need more work on literary essays. I haven't gotten to the good parts of it. We'll do that in April. Okay, and then fold it again. It's about 4 boxes. Okay, this is called the brace chart. So the brace chart, let's write that. That's a strategy. I'm gonna give you 4 examples. That's why we have 4 boxes. Because you can do this in a variety of different ways. Here's the brace chart. Love this one for all domains because I want you to be thinking of other contents other than ELA. I can do this for a lot of different things. It's the brace chart is the strategy for the skill of whole to part. So when I'm taking something and moving and going from whole to part, I'm going to use this strategy. I use it for vocabulary for sure, but I also just use it for content too. Anytime I'm trying to break something down from whole to parts of the whole, I can do this chart. So vocabulary, but I also can use it for content. Now, I told you that morphology is really important. That's why I like this brace chart. So brace chart looks like this. You've got your line for your word. Here's your whole. So there's your whole, right? Whatever you're going to break down. And then you're going to use these brackets that look like this. And then you're going to break that down. I'm going to start with 3. And by the way, you can even break down each of those in a certain way. And I'm putting 2, but it could be just 1 each time. So now remember, I'm going from whole to part. So I'm going to take my whole, I'm going to break it down, and then I can even, if I can, I'm going to even break that down. Okay, and I'll show you some examples too. Or I can send you a PowerPoint. We'll depend on how much time. So this is called what? What's this called, everyone? What's the skill? Okay, so let's just talk. I'm going to do not a vocabulary, I'm going to do content. Something really simple, because remember, phase 1 of instruction, teach the strategy with something they know before you move it into content. So most of our kids know about the body, right? Okay, we're wording about the body. What's another academic term for a body? The skeleton, maybe?
The body paragraph.
Well, we're learning about a body. Yeah, like anatomy, skeleton, right? And we've got parts. So we know that we have the head. This is very basic, you guys, but you'll get it. Head, torso, and what? Legs or limbs or whatever, right? Very basic, just so you get the idea of this. Okay, then can I break it down even more? How do I break, what would I have for head? And can I break down the torso?
Yeah.
How? Maybe not, maybe you might hear, who's the hormone?
Arms and
Just-
Chest and belly. Chest and guts.
And legs?
Quads, yes.
Upper low. That's.
You see what you're doing here? Okay, so this is more doing this based on something you're studying. Now let's think of some other content things. So in your team, this has nothing to do with vocabulary, but it really is, but not. What would be something else that you would break down for kids? Think of another example. Well, it could be just talk through your group. What else could I break down? That's more content based, something in social studies, something in math, something in science. We got a science teacher. Hopefully our science teacher can maybe think of something that you're having them break down. Can you think of anything? Ooh, what? There you go. Atomic structure, you guys. Do you see how that would work? I'm going to show you a PowerPoint, some examples that, yeah. So content, it's taking anything and then breaking it down into parts. So this is more of a content example where you're learning about something and you're breaking down the content. So now and it's still vocabulary, right? So here's another way to do it. We've got our whole, let's set this up. We've got our whole, and I'm going to at least do 3. Stop there, and I'll show you if we can break that down. So now we're going to work on morphology, right? So the word is respectful. Okay, so we're going to break that down, morphology. What are the parts? So we've got what? Right? Then we've got what? Spect, right? And then we have what? Full. Can we break that down? There's a couple ways I can do this one, you guys. This could be just name what that is. So I'm just going to say, what is that? That's a what? Prefix. That's one way that I could do it. This is what? And this is the what? Right? So I could start that easy, but again, Stacy was right there with me. I could do it again. I'm going to do it one more time. Watch, look what I'm gonna do. I'm breaking down, here are the parts, morphology. What are those parts? That's morphology, right? I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna tell you another way that I can do this. I can go respectful. The end of the day for me. Look at how messy mine looks. It's okay. I'm gonna put my parts, still morphology, respectful, right? Then guess what I'm gonna do? Instead of naming it, I'm going to define. What does re mean? What does spect mean? And what does full mean? There's the other way to do that, you guys. So you go do again, respect that there is at the base, we find out what that meaning is, and full, what's that meaning? Okay, so now they have to know what those parts are, define them. That's how you would do a brace chart. Do you want to see some examples? Okay, before you do, I want you to pick a word and do practice one. Just any word you want. Pick one that you picked from your Ravon story. Do one together with your group, and I'm going to show you a PowerPoint on it. Hang in there with me for just a minute.
And use the race chart. But this is not the thing to do in like the beginning of a new unit, like if you're trying to add prior knowledge.
Yes, that would be a great, yes, before you start a unit or either, just do that with 5 words. And then, yes, you could do that at the beginning just to preview the words. Sometimes I'll stop as we're reading and just do it while I'm reading. And I'll say, oh, God, let's do a brace chart on this word. This is a good one to break down. So depends on what I'm doing. Okay, you guys, while you're coming up with a word, you're going to have to share your word. So everybody come up with a word, something that you're doing in your content. You're picking a word that you want to do or a word from Ravon and break it down for me while I'm looking for my PowerPoint.
That's not one, it's two.
Okay, guys, want to see some examples? Hopefully you've all kind of figured out that one word that you are practicing. You guys, you got to practice these for sure. Look up here, you guys, and then you can take pictures. Get your phone out so you can take some pictures. So if you want some ideas, they're right up here. Hold on. So first of all, when I'm teaching kids, I'll say, guys, let's define it. So here's my definition when I'm teaching kids the brace charts. So I want to do something really easy before I move into content. So brace charts. Brace charts help learners understand the relationship between a whole physical object and its parts. They are used to analyze the structure of an item. Is like dissecting on paper. On the line to the left, write the name of the whole object. On the lines within the first brace to the right, write the major parts of the object. Then follow within the next set of braces with the subparts of each major part. Brace charts are good for organizing the agenda of a meeting or showing the structure of an organization. So that's one that I'm going to help them do some time in text and read with me. And then you guys, now I got to get out of the way, hopefully. Here's some examples from easy to more difficult. Do you see that? Pretty easy. You guys, this is a good one to start with, even with my older kids. This is how the simplistic way of looking at this. Now, some of the parts you can't break down, right? So be mindful of that. Not all the third subpart is you're gonna do, but just know that when you can, you do that. Look at this. Now, this is something that all departments can do. Look at this one. So see how you can even break down and do this in music. Related to arts, you know, Renaissance age, okay? Where did I get my information? Look at this is the skeleton one. How somebody would break that one down. Oh, math. Can math do this? Look at this, you guys. Math can totally do this too. Where they're breaking down the equation. Helpful for kids, you think? Could we all do it? Oh, look at this. It's a word problem. We're going to break down that word problem in math. And the things around it are what we call the frame, the metacognition. So it's what do we need, questions I need to ask myself, where did I get my information? So even in the corners, my kids are actually thinking about their thinking. So once they do it in the corners, let's say, well, what questions do we need to ask ourselves? Well, where did you get your information from? So I'm doing that. Well, why is this important? So I'm even making them go to that higher level thinking in the corners of the chart. Here's another one. Look at this one. Oh, here's a history. Look at that one. Look at that one right there. Instead of having kids read and answer those 10 questions at the end of the chapter, wouldn't this be a lot more engaging and for kids?
And actually, every one of these prevents your students from using AI to just solve it and.
And by the way, it's interactive, it's engaging. And this is going to be my kids' test. If my kids can take the idea of an atom and break it down, why do I have to give them those 20 questions that repeat the same question 5 times? Why am I doing that? Because I have to correct that darn thing. When I know that they know atoms if they can do this for me, right? So it's even the way that I assess kids will change because I'm not going to do those 20 questions at the end of every unit. I'm just not going to do that anymore. I don't have time to correct them, number one. And I want it to be meaningful. I don't want to go home and spend all my nights correcting papers, you guys. I got to find different ways of doing this. Look at this one. How fun is that? But kids get really creative, you guys. Oh, now art. Like I try to find different examples in different areas. And every time I go into a classroom and do this, I try to take pictures so that I can show other teachers because sometimes it's the example that matters. If I tell them to do it, oftentimes I'll get pushback. But if I can show them an example of it, then look at, it's so much better. You guys, our kids cannot tell time. I have to tell you a small story. My husband is a trainer, but he works with steam and pipe and big companies, and he was doing some work over on Seattle, and they were doing what's the big one? The Boeing, yeah, Boeing. He went to talk to one of the head persons, but not in, it was in more the mechanics and the steam and pipe part of it. They were interviewing some folks that were just right out of college. They were trying to hire some folks, kind of an entry 1 level. One of the questions, there were 20 people that came in for the interview. And one of the questions, believe it or not, at Boeing was for them to look at a clock and to tell them the time, and not one of them could do it.
An analog?
An analog clock, they could not read it. Oh my heavens. Well, but they don't have to though, right? Think about it. We take all of your analog clocks away and we do the digitals. Yeah, and let's see, look at this one. Again, I think look at this one again for math. Kids get really creative with us. Look at this one. And then I think there might be some repeats. There you go. All right, you guys. How fabulous is that? Give me some snaps on there. All right, you guys, you did fabulous. I'm gonna get you out of here. Trigger 9. And I'm not saying you have to go to exercise, which that again, every but I played in fact no. I'm sorry. No, Sorry, see, that was good. Before you can leave, you gotta do it, 'cause I want to model what it needs to look like. Before you can leave, you have to tell your partner, one big aha today, a mic drop today for you from this training, was one thing that you learned, one thing you're going to do, one thing that you're excited about, and then you can clean up things up. Thank you guys, you were fabulous.